Booklatan is a book babbling podcast where we have a glass of wine and talk about all things books. I'm Antonette, a relapsing bookworm on a journey of rediscovering my addiction to reading.
I'm Kate, an oat milk latte enthusiast who loves writing in my books and dog-earing the pages.
Yay! Welcome everyone to our first episode that we will entitle Booklatan 100 because to be honest, we are figuring out what the hell we're doing here. Okay, so in this episode, we are having a glass of Barefoot Chardonnay, a white wine from California with flavors of green apples and peaches, hints of honey and vanilla with a buttery finish. It's rated 3.3 on Vivino, and we will let you know if we agree at the end of the episode. So, cheers, kids.
Cheers.
Cheers. Okay. Yep.
Buttery.
Buttery. Parang light apple tea. By the way, wala akong alam sa wine. So,
Ako
masarap.
din naman.
Like, the only thing I can offer here is masarap.
My first thought was like, alak.
Fancy Tita Alak. For, us trying to char. Okay. So this first episode, Booklatan 100, is really just a very quick introduction of who we are, what we're into, what we're doing. So to sort of give you a little bit of a feel of what you can expect in future episodes. Anything you'd like to add to that attempt at a summary, Char?
Actually, no.
Okay, so we can just jump right into our very responsibly put together guide questions for each other. Okay, Kate, if you could use one book to introduce yourself to someone, what would it be?
Oh my God, one book talaga.
One lang.
That is
Kaya
a
mo
very
yan.
hard question to ask a bookworm. I would say, I actually don't think it's a well-known book, but
Okay.
it's one of my favorites. And like, if I can get more people to read it through this podcast, then great.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually a trilogy, but the first book is called The Wolf of Orenyaro. By
What now?
The Wolf of Orenyaro.
Okay.
So OREN-YARO. It's a fantasy novel.
Ooh.
It's written by a Filipino author named Gayas Villoso.
Okay.
And basically it asks the question of what would happen if the Philippines was never colonized by Spain.
Ooh.
And yeah, the setting is it's not a tropical country by any means. They've got like winter and magical creatures. So it's
Okay.
not the Philippines exactly. But the setting is this kingdom where it's basically composed of like different regions. So kind of like our provinces. And all of them are like individual kingdoms, quote unquote.
Ooh.
And how do politics now work if there was no single unifying force? If there's no single colonizer that turned the country into one country? And how does the identity of that area as one country, how is that identity formed without that colonizer who came in and said, hey, you're one country now? And then, of course, the fantasy element comes in. So there's like dragons, magic. But at the heart of it all is that question of how do you now create a national identity if you were not a nation to begin with?
And so are the fantasy creatures also related to Philippine folklore?
Yes, they were very much inspired by Filipino folklore. And I think even, I mentioned dragons. It has dragons in it. And the way that dragons are described in the book is kind of similar to how we have legends of like the Bakunawa. So they're not like Western style dragons. They're more Asian, Filipino dragons. And something that the book does that I really like also is it really explores the concept of Filipino motherhood. So like I'm not a mother myself, but that discussion is something that I really appreciated because like Filipino society tends to put mothers on like such a high pedestal. I mean, we have the term ilaw ng tahanan.
What?
Ilaw ng tahanan.
May ganon?
Yes! So it literally means like light of the home, and it's like an idiom that refers to the mother of the household.
Oh, ang pressure.
Right? Exactly.
What if I want to be the gloom and doom of this household?
Exactly. And that's what the book explores. So like the main character is a mom. And all of her actions are being driven by the fact that she is a mom. So like it explores that pressure. So
Interesting.
aside from all the fantasy element, there's like an individual element to it as well that I really appreciate.
How to love a strong female lead.
Exactly.
Okay.
What
Well,
about you?
okay. So mine also has a female lead, but she in this book shows a different kind of strength. So if I were to introduce myself to someone with a single book, it would be Franny and Zooey by J.D. Salinger.
Ooh.
And basically the story is
She's a classic girly.
she's a classic. I think it was 50s, 60s ba ata.
That's a long time ago.
But set in the US, and the story is basically it's about Franny and Zooey, but it's mostly about Franny entering and very much in the middle of a major depressive episode. And the whole book is about her brother trying to pull her out of this episode through a very long conversation, a long and winding conversation. And the whole book is a conversation between the two of them.
Oh.
So this is so different from the things that I'm reading now because
it sounds like it's almost like an epistolary novel kind of letters.
Not really letters. So very interesting because it's like one part of the book is she's in the middle of her depression or her slump, and she's on the couch, and they're so afraid to approach her that what her brother does, Zooey, is calls her up from one of the telephones in the bedroom to talk to her, to start talking to her. And as they go through the conversation, he starts drifting towards her and around her. And just the conversation goes through all of these different loops and winds and, going back, going forward, thinking about the situation, wallowing in the situation. But the different type of strength that I found that I resonated with in Franny is the strength to let herself go into that pit of almost, no, actually despair.
So like look at your demons and really
Kind
know
of.
what they are.
But also acknowledge that you're being a self-indulgent, privileged little New York socialized child. Acknowledging that, but also just, look, that's what it is. Let's get through it.
That sounds really interesting because like I often find that sometimes literature that talks about mental health kind of puts people at like the characters at extremes. So like you have really bad mental health, but you're also like really underprivileged, or like you have really bad mental health, but they're like super rich. So like it's interesting to look at it from like, yeah, you're pretty lucky in the material aspects of your life, and you've got this mental problem, but now like, what are we going to do about it? So I feel like looking at issues like that head on is a really good reading. It makes for a really good reading experience.
Yeah, and we've all been there at some point in time. And it's a really great book when you're going through some sort of any sort of difficult moment where there's a lot changing and you feel like you either can't change with it or you're having trouble coping with it. And the whole Franny and Zooey conversation, even if it meanders into like everywhere, it's about just talking through all of those ridiculous thoughts, whether you think you deserve to feel a certain way or not, to be able to come out on the other side.
Giving voice to something can really like help with working through how you feel about it. So I definitely get what you mean and where you're coming from with that.
And I'm just so surprised also that such as like a different type of female strength in this character was written by a guy.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Anyway. So.
Well, sometimes male authors have their moments.
They do, but I'm more skeptical.
No, that's true. I mean, how do you know that a guy is going to write well about female experience?
Diba?
Sometimes they do it well, though. But I understand approaching it with a little bit of skepticism.
Yeah, like there's this whole Facebook group called Her Breasts Breasted Boo Boo. Like, man, wow, this person is writing about something that they have no idea about.
I have seen some of the books in that Facebook group. Some of them are crazy. Like there's this one. It was a crime thriller, and basically what happens is so they have like a murder victim,
Okay.
and the murder victim doesn't have a purse with her, and basically the police find out that she kept her like credit cards inside her vagina, and like. Yeah.
Were they very flexible credit cards? Maybe they were like rolled up into
like made out of silicone credit cards or I don't know. But yeah. So like
Sige, sir.
no idea how female anatomy works. Yeah. Or there was another one where like they could feel.
I guess if there's a will, there's a way.
There is a will, there is a way.
But sorry, go on.
Sorry. There was another one that I saw. Like these are all screenshots. I've never read these books.
Okay.
But like there's screenshots of Kindle books and whatnot. And there was another one that said like women can feel when they're ovulating. Like they can feel and I'm not talking about like feeling ovulation symptoms like being extra energetic or what, or having a higher libido, but like they can feel the egg slipping down the fallopian tube.
Ano daw?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I guess this is the tita portion of the podcast, but you can actually feel when you're ovulating in the sense that there's like, it can feel like a cramp
yeah.
on your abdomen, but not all across, not like period type. And that's when I know that, all right, there goes that egg. Pero, ano yun?
Yung egg going down the fallopian tube, yun yung description na nararamdaman ng female character.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
But like the cramp is like a symptom as well din naman of ovulation, diba? So like, you feel the symptoms for sure. The cramps or yun nga, whatever other ovulation symptoms people feel. But like the description of the book, the narration of the book is that the female character could feel the egg sliding down the fallopian tube.
Baka naman may special powers siya that we don't know of. You know, people have different talents.
But it's nice to know that this book is an exception to that.
Okay. All right. Moving on from the ovulation talk.
Moving on. So our second question, describe your reading routine.
Okay. I don't really have, per se, a routine where like I do this thing first and then this thing first and this thing first. But it's more of a state of mind that I go into where it's either I'm done for the day with work or whatever else needs to be done, or I'm actively procrastinating and rejecting the need to do something.
We've all been there.
And it's more of the state of mind is the shop's closed for responsible things that I need to do out in the world. I am going to read now. If you need me, I will be on the other side of my book page goal for the day. Yeah, and just when that's the state of mind. It's more of like, wala na, sarado na yung tindahan. Wala na akong gagawin for
Bukas
anyone else. Bukas na ulit. Walang mamamatay kung hindi yan mangyari ngayon. So yeah.
I relate to that. Like, I mean, working a full 9 to 5, right? So like obviously
corporate
when the day is done. Yeah, corporate
up?
girlies. When the day is done and the emails are shut off and the work phones are locked in the drawer and nobody's talking to me. But yeah. So like my routine is something similar. Like I normally read at the end of the day because like the morning is just not a great time for corporate girlies. You're rushing out the door, you're getting your coffee, you're getting your breakfast, you're struggling to beat like the traffic. So not a good time to read. But at the end of the day, so like I get home and then I take a shower and do all my beauty routines, my skincare routines. And then usually what I like reading, like I don't read in bed. Because if
really?
Yeah, no. I don't read in bed because I feel like I'm going to fall asleep.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like,
Total opposite.
you read in bed?
Like the other night, I read, like I got into bed, like I closed the shop of my life at like 10 p.m. I was reading in bed until 3.
Nice.
Pero ano siya, different positions.
Oh yeah.
And at one point, like my husband was asleep beside me and parang, I need a different position. I put the book on my husband and kept reading. And he woke up and he was like, what's happening? Like, you're just reading.
Well, that's another reason why I don't read in bed.
Okay, why?
Because I also don't want to bother my husband.
Sorry, husband.
So I have a little like reading nook in my bedroom, in our bedroom. And it's like a little chair. It's underneath one of those lamps. That like bends over so that it casts light on the
An
bottom.
ergonomic reader.
Yes.
Okay.
No, because when I was a kid, I used to read a lot in bed. And like I'd read it like, you know, those kids in 90s and 2000s movies where they're like, their parents tell them to go to bed and then they read with like a flashlight, which is why I have really thick glasses right now because it ruined my eyesight. So now I'm all about reading with proper lighting.
When I was a kid, my parents used to force us to take afternoon naps. Like it's siesta time. No, nobody cannot have siesta. And I was like, I don't feel sleepy at all. So what I would do is I would sleep at the edge of the bed. Because this is like that time in the 90s where like everybody's co-sleeping.
Yeah.
Like,
One bedroom has like 3 kids.
pretty much. Or like, and then katabi pa namin yung parent namin.
Right.
Like, parent
Yeah.
that, yeah. So what I would do is I'd sleep at the edge of the bed. I'd put the book on the floor. And I'd keep reading.
So with your face like half hanging off. the
Just
bed.
like looking down. I look like I'm asleep. But really, I am reading.
Reading.
So yeah, that's good times.
Sly.
And in the dark.
Yeah. So yeah. And we now are both glasses wearers. So yeah.
It's an extra accessory to
Confirm that you are a bookish person with glasses.
Yes. But also, it's another thing to add to your outfit, right?
Right.
Like, oh, pretty glasses. Do I need another pair? Not really, but it's cute.
Ooh, something else that I like having with me while I'm reading is my cat.
Oh.
Yeah. So like she sits in my lap or like at my feet while I'm reading.
My cat, total opposite. He's like, why aren't you making me pansin? and like there's one time, it was a few nights ago. There's a different meow for, and it's like, I'm just making pa cute, or like, hi, hello. That you know, have you ever heard the meow where it's just like meow?
Yeah.
Like a long meow.
Notice me.
Yeah. So I was in bed reading. He just comes up to the side, puts his face between me and the book, and meows at me like a long meow. Tama na yan. Nanay ba kita or what?
Cats.
Yeah, and
I
then
feel like we ticked so many like boxes. If there was like a bookworm bingo, I feel like we ticked so many of them.
We should.
Glasses, cats.
we should have a bookworm bingo episode.
We should.
Okay, so that was our reading routine. Follow-up question: What time in the day do you usually read, or when do you usually read?
It depends if it's a weekday or a weekend. On a weekday, I read at night. So like after I'm done with everything, like I get home, I work out, have dinner, and then like when I'm in bed or not in bed, but I'm ready to like go out for the night. Yeah, so that's usually like by 9 p.m. And then I read until maybe like 11 to midnight, unless it's like one of those books where you can't stop.
Yeah.
So like I usually go past midnight in those cases. But like on the weekends, I like reading in the morning.
Oh.
So I like having breakfast and then going out to the garden and then sitting out there with coffee and reading.
Wow.
Yeah.
What healthy reading habits? Healthy reading habits you have.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anyone will relate to this or basically just think I'm not John. But so the last couple of books I've been reading have been particularly long-ish books.
Ooh.
So like 500, 600 pages.
She's a committed girly.
Yeah, but they're also like easy to read romanticies. So, I mean, let's not over like pat ourselves on the back. But anyway, so what I've done is because there's just so much hang time, especially when you're in traffic.
Right.
So I read the physical book at home, which is usually when after I get home, the day ends and we're like locked down in my bed. But during the day, on my way to work, I have an audiobook. And I just basically find where I left off the previous
and
night.
continue reading
And
it from there.
like listening to it as I'm driving, like an hour and a half to work. At least nagpo-progress pa rin ako sa story. Diba?
Yeah, makes sense.
So, and then when I get to work and sometimes like, and now I find that this has actually helped me cherish my work breaks. So
Because you can read.
So like I didn't used to do this. Like I didn't used to take the 15 minutes in the morning lunch and then 15 minutes in the afternoon. But now I do it so I can sneak in a chapter. Or a chapter or two using either the audiobook
Or the Kindle copy.
or the Kindle copy.
Yeah.
So because it's so embarrassing to bring these 600-page books to work. And their covers are really pretty, but obviously they're not work related.
Right.
So, parang, hiya naman ako ng slide. So, I just read it on my phone or like on my laptop screen, or like I rush through lunch. So, I still have 30 minutes to read.
Read. Yeah, I do that too. I rush through my lunch break so that I can read. I go back to my office and I read.
Or, I don't know if this is technically unethical, but like 11 to 12, I'll eat my lunch while working. So, I'm still working. And then 12 to 1, I'm just gonna read in the car.
I don't think it's unethical. I mean, kung nagtrabaho ko pa naman, you're
That's
technically
true.
not taking your break.
Support group.
Yeah.
Shit.
Oh my God.
Okay. Sorry. Next question. If you were stuck in a library during the end of times, like an apocalyptic situation, what book would you burn as panggatong? Or in English, kindling.
Oh my God. So I feel like this book has a lot of fans. So I apologize in advance. No, I do not apologize because I hate this book. I hate this book so much. And I would willingly burn it, even if I didn't need kindling. Oh my God, no, I wouldn't burn a book. But like if I needed to warm myself up, yeah, or cook something. So that would be The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Why? I agree. But why?
I agree, but why? Okay, let me tell you. So the thing about The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck is that it likes to present itself as this new edge, like, it likes to present this. Sorry.
Have you read
nabulol
this
ako.
book, actually?
I have.
Oh, you poor child.
Yeah.
Go on.
Okay, so the thing about The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck is that it presents itself as this like cutting edge approach to self-help.
Bakit daw?
It likes to give off this image of like, oh, I'm this new approach to like letting go and not caring what anyone else thinks about you. But if you read it, it's not anything new. It's literally the same old self-help garbage, recycled, repurposed. And then instead of using words like care or concern or opinion or whatever, it throws in curse words like crap or fuck. So that it's like, it's got that wham factor. But it's literally nothing new. It's repackaged self-help. It's literally a Tony Robbins seminar, but with like fuck and crap and shit thrown here and there. And then aside from that, I don't know, like the author gives off major incel vibes.
Really?
Yeah, like there's so many instances of like casual sexism in there in the book.
Really?
Yeah, like it'll drop like mentions of how, you know, women, they love shopping, like things like that.
Okay.
Like-
Not that that's a lie, but okay.
Yeah. But like, you know, those usual stereotypical observations about women. And then, ang daming text na ganun, na it has all of these really weird, like outdated sexist concepts. Like, yun nga, women love shopping, women love gossiping, all of that. There's even like, I don't remember na if this is true, but like there's even a part there where they're talking about like how women love gossiping.
Okay.
And I'm like, I mean, everyone loves gossiping.
Some of the
No.
biggest mariteses in my
Are
office
men,
are dudes.
yeah.
By the way, shout out to
Yeah.
my what do you call the boy version of marites?
I actually don't know. I just had this concept of marites being gender neutral.
I think it's like tolits ba?
I wouldn't know.
Parang tol, ito yung bago.
Oh my God, yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Anyway,
Parang
not
like-
important.
Yeah.
Okay, go on. Sorry.
Basta, ang dami niyang ganun.
Okay.
And then, I found out that the author used to be like a pickup artist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like he used to work as like a dating coach or whatever.
Humihitch but gross.
Yeah, hitch but gross. And like, it's got all those things like, oh, negging and whatnot.
oh my God.
So yeah, actually, I think he has a book about it now, about his experience as a dating coach. And like, obviously I haven't read it. But when I found out that he used to be a pickup artist, I was like, oh, okay, that explains it. Anyway, so yeah.
Pickup artist inherently feels scammy.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's why I hate The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and I would happily burn it.
Well,
What about you?
I think there are like a whole bunch of copies printed out. So you'd have a lot of panggatong
Yeah,
pangluto.
I would survive the apocalypse.
Marami kang masasayang na. Okay. In the same breath,
Oh my God.
the book that I would burn first as kindling is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. Putragis, my God, this book. Okay. First and foremost, at the time that it came out, I received no less than 5 copies
Oh my God.
of this book from well-meaning
Yeah.
relatives, titas, titos. I mean, I guess it's like a
This is
go-to
like
Christmas
a
gift that you
teen
don't think
version
about.
of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right?
Ayun na nga,
Yeah.
mismo.
Oh my God.
And then, I think I even got a copy from my mom.
Oh God.
And I'm just like, cool. Do you think I'm not effective? But
Hindi ka highly effective.
hindi ako highly
lang.
effective. Effective lang. But yeah, I just so I tried to read it and I was just basically like, huh? Sasabi mo. Like, it's just like there's no one formula to go about life or, the different situations that you're going to go through. Hey, maybe it really helped out some people. And for those that it helped out, good for you. But I just do not resonate with self-help
I
type non-fic.
I think that might be a symptom of self-help in general.
Really?
That like it applies like this one-size-fits-all approach.
Yeah.
Which it's not necessarily bad. I mean, obviously it helps some people. Otherwise it wouldn't be flying off the shelves. But like
Yes.
I wish these books would acknowledge that there are some things that are just beyond a book, that you actually need to individually seek out. I don't know, whatever works for you, therapy or talking to a friend or whatever.
Yeah, or like support systems.
Support
but
systems, yeah.
What I don't like about some of these books is how they kind of market themselves as like, I have the answer.
The answer, yeah.
I will solve the problem.
That book, Ikigai, is like that also.
Really?
Yeah. And another thing about Ikigai that bothers me is that it anchors most of its discussions on a Japanese philosophy. But the 2 people who wrote it, they're like white people.
Ay?
Yeah.
Talaga ba?
Yeah. So parang, I mean, part of the reason why I liked the Marie Kondo books was like, I felt that Marie Kondo was really coming at it from her perspective growing up Japanese. So like the Japanese approach to cleaning and tidying up and whatnot. So it lends that air of authenticity.
Right.
Being able to look at it talaga from the perspective of another nationality. I mean, I'm not saying naman na you can't ever write outside of your ethnicity or your gender or whatever. But like, do it with care. And in particular in Ikigai, I don't think that it did it with care because it marketed itself as like the answer, like what you said.
Well, side note on the Marie Kondo, what was it? The something tidying
Art of
up.
Tidying
The Art
Up.
of Tidying Up.
Yeah.
I loved it until she told me to throw away my books. That's when I was like, I respect your approach, but this is not mine. I am not throwing away a single book.
Yeah.
I am not going to throw it away. I'm sorry.
Well, I find that fits in pair with Marie Kondo's philosophy because obviously those books still spark joy for you. So like, why would you throw those away? Parang ganun. Ewan ko.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Though some of those books, pwede ko namang i-let go. Pero ayoko eh.
Well, that's up to you now.
Okay. So, 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens I would burn, followed closely by Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh my God.
And all these financial advice
Books, yeah.
books that also super ironic that I think the guy is like not doing so well right now.
Oh.
I mean, I feel bad for
Yeah,
him.
yeah. And I mean, obviously no one rejoices in that. But
Pero
like,
paano yung all of the people who you told
took your
to do it your
advice.
way?
Yeah.
Mas parang ganyan ka, sir. Ano nangyari? So, yeah, and I read that during a very formative year in high school.
Yeah. The thing about those finance books, the finance genre of self-help books, is that a lot of them like treat poverty or just basically struggling financially as a moral failing.
I know.
So parang, like if you're poor, it's your fault. So,
I know.
I mean, there are certain cases, I guess, where going bankrupt is your fault. Like if you made decisions like you gambled away your money or whatever. But like sometimes,
Though it's also an addiction.
which
so
is also
it's
not
an illness.
entirely a choice, right?
Yeah, so
So like, alam mo yun, I mean, it's not a moral, it's just a set of circumstances that happened to someone. It doesn't necessarily mean that someone's like a totally bad person. You know what I mean?
and I would actually argue that I have learned more about humanity and the human condition and how to treat others and how to be in a society with others harmoniously through science fiction.
You know what? True.
And it's real, and it's why it's one of the reasons why it's one of my favorite genres, because it's like, yes, it's set in this whole fantasy world, but it mirrors humanity in such a unique way.
And I think science fiction in particular kasi is the genre that really asks, what does it mean to be human? You know what I mean? So like,
Specifically, I realized this when I read The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury.
yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful set of short stories. Okay.
Let's move on to our next question. Do you have a guilty pleasure book?
Okay. So Kate was very much present while I read these guilty pleasure books. It's a very recent addition to the reading situation. And I'm going to say it is the Aquatar books, or more popularly known as the Aquatar books, but it's A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. And it's, so far, there have been 5 books in the series. And it's a romantasy. A romantasy quintet at this point of novels. And I always feel the need to preface it when I talk about it to other people. Like, it's not earth-shattering literature, huh? It's not like Lord of the Rings or anything like that. It won't change your life. But it was fun.
Sometimes all you need is a fun book, you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's also like a nostalgia thing. Like my guilty pleasure books are the Twilight books.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, I never made it through like a chapter.
I finished all 4 of the books. And look, I know they're problematic as fuck. Like, I know Stephanie Meyer has this weird purity culture thing that that she perpetuates through the books about like having sex only after marriage, and like every woman is not fulfilled unless they have a baby and all of those things. And she and the movies have paid literally 0 reparations or 0 things to the real life Killayut tribe where the werewolves are from. So like, I know this is a super problematic series, but like, I am nostalgically attached to it because like the book Twilight came out, I was like 11 years old. And it was like, I read it in a day, literally in a day. Like I have a memory of sitting on the porch of my grandparents' house and not moving from that spot the whole day until I finished. And then the books came out year on year after that. So like New Moon came out when I was 12, Eclipse when I was 13, and then Breaking Dawn when I was 14. So like I super loved all of those books. I loved reading it. And then as I got older and I realized like, what the fuck?
So yeah, parang wait lang, Purity Eme, pero yung ka-love triangle mong werewolf in love sa unborn child. Like how? Yeah. I didn't even read the books. I didn't know that
so like the logic there was that like, oh, Jacob's not gonna like do anything with Renesmee, which is a stupid name by the way.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Don't get me started on the names in Aquatar, man.
Oh yeah, the names in Aquatar.
Anyway, go on.
Yeah, but like they're all saying about, I mean, the books say about Jacob and Renesmee, like, oh, it's not gonna be a sexual thing until much later when they're married. Parang ganon. So it's very that. And then like there's this whole subplot about Bella and Edward wanting to have sex, but it doesn't happen until after they're married. So it's giving abstinence only, purity culture kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Which I guess is not helped by the fact that Stephanie Meyer is a Mormon.
She's a Mormon?
She's a Mormon.
Oh my. Okay.
So like, honestly, when I found out that Stephanie Meyer was a Mormon, I was like, oh my God, that explains so much.
Wait, I mean, isn't like the sparkly, vampy guy like several hundred, may 100 na ba
Like
siya?
100 plus years old, yeah.
And you're gonna tell me that he's never had sex with anyone unless he maybe got married to them. And
Yep.
Sure, this is like the complete opposite of the Vampire Chronicles, but sure.
Yeah.
Sige. Okay. Well, on that note, something that has recently become a guilty pleasure, but didn't used to be. And it's really more because of the discourse surrounding it now and the situation with the author.
Yeah.
It's Harry Potter.
Oh my God, same.
So it holds a very, very special place in my childhood. Growing up, books coming out year on year.
Yeah,
Na
yeah.
parang you're I remember distinctly some of my classmates begging their parents to stand in line at the bookstore to buy it for them.
When it
Tapos
first comes out.
when it first comes out, and only one, let's say, only one parent would be able to buy, and we'd pass the books along
Yeah.
to each other. And it's a nostalgia for that time and all of us to like believing in that magic of that world.
Yeah.
But now it's just become so complicated and problematic and honestly heartbreaking from an
Yeah. No,
author that you love
I
so
know what you
much.
mean. I also grew up with Harry Potter. I mean, like, it was one of the formative books of my
Mm.
childhood. And it was baby's first fantasy, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, you know, J.K. Rowling could have gone down in the annals of literature as like this very beloved children's book
Yeah,
author.
dude.
But like, she just had to open her mouth. And like,
Yeah,
I
dude.
can't enjoy the books anymore. Like anything. I mean, I still love it. I acknowledge the place that it had in my childhood. I mean, wala nang magagawa dun, it happened.
Yeah.
But like, it's hard to do anything about it or like buy stuff, buy the books, enjoy the books, or even enjoy games or other
Yeah.
media without thinking about the fact that I'm paying out money for these things. And this money is gonna go to J.K. Rowling, who's gonna use it to support
perpetuate a
causes that
message
I
and-
hate. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very much, you know, a supporter of queer rights, trans rights.
Mm-mm.
And like, I have trans friends, and I can't enjoy something knowing that the money I put toward that thing is going to a woman who's going to use it for causes that directly hurt them. So like,
Hurt them or put them down. And these people are
Yeah.
just trying to live,
Yeah.
man. So
oh yeah,
Yeah.
I get what you mean. I agree.
it's guilty in a sense that
It's
I
not the
can't-
fun guilt.
it's not the fun guilt. It's the masakit na I can't. I love these books for the place that they had in my childhood.
yeah.
But I can't support it
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Or the
Totally.
person. It's the whole separate the art from the artist thing.
Yeah. Which I don't believe in also.
Mahirap, man.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, that got serious for a
I
minute.
know. But going back, the really funny names in these guilty pleasure books. Man, Akotar.
Oh my God.
Some of these names are like, so I read the first book, and then the lead character's name. I'm like, how do I pronounce this? Feyre? Feyra?
Oh, right.
So Feyra, kasi fairy world. Ganon. Okay, sige, push. Like, a lot of them. Who would name their child Nesta? Ano?
You know, every time I see the name Nesta, I think to myself like, oh, Nesty.
Nesty, Nescafe /Sustagen. Ano ba to?
Yeah,
Like,
pag binabasa ko siya, parang, oh, parang kaninang ka bumabangon. Yung
parang
the commercial plays in my head.
And it's like the only name I can get behind is Eileen.
Yeah.
Parang Kerry. Or what is the name? Book boyfriend number 1 in that series is Tamlin.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second one is okay, ito
Rice sand?
At first I was like Rysand. And then I started doing the whole audiobook thing while in traffic.
And it was pronounced?
Rysand.
Oh, okay.
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 Sige.
You know, you mentioned book boyfriends.
Okay.
On that note, who is your current book boyfriend?
My current book boyfriend, yung kilig, is so I'm reading the second book of Fourth Wing right now. And my current book boyfriend is Zayden Ryerson. The man, obviously, there are images in my head,
Right.
but he is built.
Ooh.
He is built and he is tough and he's a hard nut to crack. But no, when he starts falling in love with her, it's like, oh my God, you're melting the ice in his heart, girl. So yeah, he is my current book boyfriend. Who's yours?
My current book boyfriend is Wendell Bamblebee from Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. So he's a professor. In this universe, like, fairies exist and they're like a separate species to be studied. So there are professors, academics who study fairies, fairyology or whatever. And he's a professor of that. And he's like, the book has like this whole sunshine grumpy thing going on. And
Yeah.
Wendell Bamblebee is the sunshine. And I genuinely love it when in a couple.
Oh, man, no, he is the
Right?
sunshine.
Right. And I genuinely love it if there's a couple and the couple are like a male and a female. And the female character is the one who is grumpy. And it's the male character who's the sunshine. I love that. So like it super vibes with me. And it's also got the trope of like he fell first. I love it when it's the guy, the male character or the male love interest who falls first. And like he's so unserious. He's so unserious about everything. Like nothing is serious. Nothing is something to be concerned about. But when it comes to like protecting Emily, if Emily is hurt or Emily's in trouble, suddenly he's all serious and willing to fight and whatnot. So it's so nakakilig. It's giving me like I wouldn't take anything seriously except where you're concerned. So like we love a man who who is devoted.
I was reading like the earlier parts of the book, like, ito na naman si Mr. Bumblebee the unbothered.
But he's only bothered when Emily is bothered. We love.
Okay. Okay, I think that is a great place to end this episode. I hope that's given you a flavor of what we're going to be talking about, how we're going to be talking about it. And in the episodes coming, where you're going to hear us talk about books or certain like things going around book culture, and maybe talking to a few of some wonderful authors that we would love to share with you and have them share their work with you. And we certainly hope that you will be with us on this rambly journey of book babbling. But just looping back to Wow Corporate Speak. Circling back to the wine aspect of this episode, I'm almost done with my glass.
I am almost done with my glass.
So what are your final thoughts on this wine, the Barefoot Chardonnay white wine? So would you either drink it again or nah?
I would drink it again, but specifically I would drink it while reading a sexy book.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's buttery, it's floral.
Interesting.
Right? It's kind of giving like, I don't want to get drunk, but I want to get a little bit buzzed so that I can get in the mood for a smutty book.
Oh, we should do this. Like, what book would you read this with? Like a book pairing.
A book and a wine pairing.
I think actually I would read this with a lighter book.
Okay.
Like a fun, light read. It's, not so complicated. I don't necessarily want to get drunk off my face. So I'd probably read it with Akatar.
Which also fits what I said about reading it with a smutty book.
You're right. Aligned! Okay. So thank you for joining us on this first episode of Booklatan. We are your hosts, Antonette and Kate. You can find more episodes on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and everywhere you find your podcasts. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at Booklatan Pod. Booklatan is a book babbling podcast where Kate and Antoinette have a glass of wine and talk about all things books. Booklatan is produced, recorded, and distributed by Big Baby Studios. Find out more about our other shows on Big Baby at itsabigbaby.com or facebook.com/bigbbabystudios.